Hello. So I have some thoughts on my mind from last night, from an experience I had last night. And it's really been making me think. So I feel that the easiest way to articulate or kind of unscramble my brain of this situation is to just make a video. So, as always, I'm going to be talking about work. Woohoo! In my new job, I work at a assisted living home. And there does seem to be paranormal activity. You know, from my understanding, most like old folks' homes and hospitals and places like that commonly have ghosts or spirits or whatever you want to call them floating around, living and doing their thing. And in this particular place, I've heard stories, I've heard things, I've seen things myself, but nothing that has, made me question whether I did something right or not. Last night, one of our residents saw what he said. He's not even sure if he saw it himself. He's like, I don't know if I'm just seeing things or if it's real or not. But basically, from the way he expressed to me and my other coworkers, like he saw ghosts that were like zombie ghosts, kind of. Not like, but like the one was eating the other one. And then like, I guess there was like a male and there was a female and they were in one particular spot. And like, I guess maybe the one that was getting eaten went away. I don't know. But, whatever the case was, it was a very disturbing sight for him. The specter or phantom or ghost or whatever you want to call it was still in his room. From the way he spoke, sometimes she would be on the chair, sometimes she would be behind the chair. And my coworker came down to me because he had originally told her, and she was like, oh my God, I can't handle this. This is fucking frightening, which is understandable, and she comes down, she's like, Amber, you gotta do, I don't know what to do. And so my brain is going, okay, well, how do I handle this? There's that side of me that if it was at my house, I'd be like, okay, I'd just be like, get the fuck out and start flinging around, black salt or blessing salt or smudging stuff or putting rocks around. But in that sort of situation away from your home, around other people, my brain, all that I had with me was my turquoise necklace. I had nothing else with me. And I'm like, what do I do? What do I do? How do I find the professional level between the two? I don't really know what was expected of me, but I went up. We all took turns. I just went up. I talked to him. I did some quick Reiki in the area that he'd indicated they were at. Then from what I've read over the years, to my understanding, like I think it is the book of Psalms, and the Bible has a lot of passages in it that are used for different things. I know in particular, there is one for stopping blood. I know a lot of times, there are other verses. I don't know where they are or what they are, but I know there are other verses in the book of Psalms that are used for various things like that. And I know I have seen in other books about, if you say the Lord's Prayer or you say certain verses, it can... I think I remember reading about like getting rid of things, like banishing things using the Bible verses, and generally using Bible verses as words of power. So I was like, well, he seems Christian. He has a picture of Jesus on the wall. He has a cross. How do I go up there and make this person feel better about this situation? I'm not going to go up there and start speaking in tongues or waving my arms around. I mean, you can't. This is a real human being in their home. You have to make them feel comfortable. You don't want to go out there and start rambling about some religion and some God or this and that they don't even believe in or they don't even know what you're talking about. So, I mean, I went and got the Bible. I opened it up. for some reason I kept thinking, is it the 23rd Psalm? Is it 23rd Psalm? I don't, it's, what I was finding wasn't coinciding with anything that I recognized, but when I did randomly open the Bible up to Psalms, there was a passage area. It was actually the 32nd verse of something, and I can't remember which chapter in Psalms it was. And that seemed to be kind of relevant to the situation. So I was like, well, I'll have a backup verse that seems to be helpful if he doesn't have a Bible verse that he likes. So when I went in, I talked to him, I sat down, I listened to what he had to say. I brought the Bible with me, and I said, do you want to read some Bible verses? You know, would that make you feel better? You know, do you want me to read some Bible verses with you? And he's like, no, not right now. And then sorry, it's very distressing. It's a very distressing situation. Honey, Mommy's making a video. But, so I talked to him, and I just listened to him, and I held his hand, and I said, you know, I believe you. You know, I've seen some things here myself. Like, do you want us to come back and check on you often? You know, and he agreed to that. He still didn't really want any Bible verses read. He's like, oh, well, maybe later. And I felt kind of bad because I didn't go back again to ask if he was ready to have any Bible verses read with him. So I feel bad about that. But I did ask him, I said, is there any verses that you would like to read, or do you have a favorite verse? Because my thought was, even if I can't find the particular Bible verse that would work to, you know, soothe the spirit or get rid of something, you know, at the very least, it might help him psychologically or just put his mind at ease about the situation. But the whole thing, I gotta move. My son's on his phone. But, it's been very distressing thinking about it. I keep going, could I have done more? Could I have done less? And my one coworker, she's like, you go deal with this, Amber. You know all the voodoo stuff. And I'm thinking, well, I don't really know voodoo. I don't know voodoo. But, I mean, I understand what she meant. But on the same note, it opens a whole new can of worms. Because it's like, what is expected of me? Like, I mean, how do you handle that sort of situation, you know? Yes, I could go off into left field. I don't know if how I handled the situation met people's expectations of me, if they even have that of me. I don't know.
Yes, there is. We can pop it out, and now,
I mean,
Daisy is ready to race.
It makes me evaluate a lot of stuff and think about a lot of things. I mean, I guess ultimately I feel okay with what I did because I didn't push anything on him. You know, the resident didn't want me to read any Bible verses with him. You know, I went in and I talked with him. I held his hand. I listened to him. I did do a little bit of Reiki in the corner, which was just quick symbols with my finger. Well, with my fingers. You know, because I'm not comfortable doing much more than Reiki while I'm at work. Because I feel with Reiki, I mean, since when you're attuned with Reiki, it's always there, you know, so just focusing it a little bit more. That's how I see it, but I don't know. But I asked myself, did I do the right thing? Was I respectful of that particular person's beliefs? Because, I mean, you know, I'm not going to walk into a 90-some-year-old man's room and be like, oh, you have ghosts. We're just going to smudge this, or we're going to do this, or I'm going to do... No. So how do I adapt that? I mean, I did the best I can. My brain's like, well, if only I could have read a Bible verse. I really feel like if I could have read something from the Bible with him, it would have helped the situation more. I mean, then again, what if I had and I still felt this way? Who knows? It just is a monkey wrench in my life that makes me think. And I mean, I'm sure other people would have handled it differently. I mean, in some ways, I feel like I'm a failure, and then in these other ways, I'm like, well, I handled it professionally. I tried to be respectful. You know, I didn't exert myself and overstep people's boundaries in their own space. You know. And then there's that moment of, I think a lot of people, when they practice witchcraft or they do spell work or anything, they have those moments of like, well, in this case, it's like, well, what does my coworker think of me? Does she think I'm full of shit because I didn't go up there and do this and this and this? I don't know. I mean, ultimately, I know it doesn't really matter, and I made the best choice and the best decision I could given the situation I was in. But, that's just what's going through my mind right now. Had a moment of stepping back and going, and I hadn't really thought about what people expected of me or not. I hadn't thought about what people's perceptions of how I would handle those situations would be. You know, I don't know. I'm caring too much about what people think about me. I guess that's the problem. I mean, it's not like I'm never going to see this person again. I have to go back to work in a couple hours, so I'll go and I'll talk to him again and see how he's doing, because that's part of my job and that's part of the routine when I'm there. So, I don't know. I don't know if viewing yourself as a witch changes the situation of how you should handle it. Maybe you handle it in a little bit of a different situation. You know, I feel like I handled it in a purely mundane fashion. I went in, I talked to him, I held his hand, I listened to him. I guess the only thing that I did that was a little bit more was I offered to read Bible verses. I don't know. I don't know. It causes a lot of thoughts in my head.
These blocks are just like Lego.
Kind of shakes things up, makes you think. Probably in a good way. It's probably a good thing to think about. I'm not trying not to stress on it, but it's just a thought in my head. Well, how would I handle something like this next time? Am I okay with how I handled this situation? Does it set well with me on a professional level and a spiritual level? That's what it is. The way I handled the situation, does it set well with me in my professional career choice and in my spiritual path? That's what it is. I think that's what it is. And you know what? I think I am okay with that. Yay for vlogging! And it made me come to a conclusion. Now I feel better. Okay. We're good. Yes. Okay.